Your college football game day has come early.
Goes down the field for Sicky, goes up high. He's got get away from the top speed, and the ball is free. Woo! What a hit! You got barbecue back there.
From underdog triumphs to powerhouse showdowns, we've got your winning playbook covered. It's BetQLU with Chris Mack, RJ Choppy, and John Martin. Presented by BetMGM. The sports book born in Vegas. Download the app today. Please gamble responsibly.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. We've made it. I can't sing, but it doesn't matter because we've made it to the college football playoff. It is going to be the most glorious weekend of ball between college ball and the NFL we've had in a long, long time, and we're here for the ride with you live coast to coast on the BetQL network, wherever you may be in the world, always inside your free Odyssey app, AUDACY. Download us in podcast form wherever you get your podcast. Just search BetQLU, and you can always watch the show as well right here on the Odyssey Sports YouTube channel alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. I'm Chris Mack. It is BetQLU presented by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. We ran through the field and the bracket last week, guys. We've got 4 games to preview today. Maybe if we've got time before we wrap up and get you our best bets, we'll talk some of the moves made in the portal, one of them impacting a playoff team. In fact, we'll get into all of that. But let's start with national championship odds. And again, we talked about the makeup of the bracket last week, and it does indicate that some teams may have an easier path based on the way things look right now. Definitely, if you look at BetMGM, there are 6 halves, maybe 6 teams that have much shorter odds to win a national championship than the 6 teams that do not. Oregon and Texas at plus 350 at BetMGM, all the way down to Notre Dame at 8-1. Georgia, Ohio State, and Penn State falling somewhere in between those numbers. And then you got the other 6 from Tennessee at 25-1 all the way out to Boise at 60-1. And Indiana, SMU, Clemson, and Arizona State all falling somewhere in between those numbers. So let's start here, John. How many of these 12 teams have a legitimate chance to win the college football playoff?
Yeah, I think maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5. That feels right to me. You know, I think Notre Dame has a chance. I think Texas has a chance. Obviously, we know Oregon is the favorite. Could there be a sneaky team that makes like if Tennessee is able to pull off the win against Ohio State, right? Mm-hmm. I could see Tennessee sort of putting themselves in that conversation. Penn State possibly. So maybe the answer is closer to 5 to 6. And I think that's why we wanted this format, right? I mean, by definition, there were only 4 teams that could win it, in the previous format. And even when it was 4, we really only thought, there's probably only 2 real teams that can win. And I don't even know if I mentioned Georgia. I know they're on a backup quarterback, and I don't think they will, but I won't count out Kirby Smart. So, that's what this thing was designed to do. It was designed to, I think, create some parity and, one-game playoff, give some teams a shot that maybe otherwise would not have one. So I think it's certainly already accomplished that in year 1.
I think there's a little bit more than I would have expected going in, just because you look at the way the college season has gone. It's so much more like the NFL now. There's so much more parity. Nobody is 3 deep in a position anymore. We've seen a lot of upsets, this year. Every team, Indiana hasn't, taken a bad loss. Penn State hasn't taken a bad loss. Texas. But basically everybody, Oregon obviously, but basically everybody else taking a bad loss somewhere along the way. I think you can legitimately say that obviously Oregon, Texas, Georgia, I think Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, Tennessee. I think Clemson too. I think you can find a way to get them there. I mean, they're a talented enough program. It wouldn't stun me because if they get by Texas, which is going to be difficult, but if they do, Arizona State's not exactly Oregon. You might walk into the semis, and then who knows who you face? You might face Oregon, you might face Tennessee, you might face Ohio State. you're in a position. So I could see a number of teams doing it just based the way on the field is.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, too, the fact that we've got a couple of teams that would never have been involved in a playoff given the old format that have a chance to prove that they can step up in weight class, even if their past attempts so far this season have failed. And I'm talking about Indiana and SMU. I don't know how long for the playoff those two teams are. We'll get into that when we talk about their specific games. But I like the fact that you have that underdog Cinderella component still alive. It's why we love March so much, right? We now have that in December with the college football playoff, which is going to be something to watch as well.
And it's like the tournament, it's going to expand. So
yeah.
I mean, it's
not going to stay at 12 for long.
Stop here.
Well, because what's going to happen is
coming in hot.
What's going to happen is we're going to see the electricity on these first round games on the on-campus sites. And guess what? If you're seeded 1 through 4, you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. The millions of dollars that are flowing into a town like State College or Columbus or South Bend this weekend, Austin, those other towns, they want in on that in Athens. So it's going to be something to watch how it'll get out to 16, and the top 8 will get their home campus sites, I would imagine, before we go on to the neutral site bowl games. That'll happen at a certain point. You're right, John. This thing will only grow, and it'll be something to see which teams take advantage of the opportunity in the 12-team format anyway. Again, we'll get into the 4 games specifically that we're going to preview in just a minute. Well, let's just start. Let's start with Friday night. And we'll dive right in. You may be listening to this Saturday morning because, again, we're live across the BetQL network Friday nights and Saturday mornings. But we're going to talk about it because it has not been played in our universe yet. Indiana, Notre Dame, Friday night, 7.5-point spread. The first ever on-campus college football playoff game. In-state rivals, if you want to call them that. They played once in like the last 65 years. Notre Dame's defense has been a machine this year. The Hoosiers' offense has been a machine. Immovable force, unstoppable object, or something like that. Curtis Rourke against Riley Leonard. Rourke has been very good when he's been healthy. Leonard has killed teams on the ground, but shown he can use his arm over the last 5 weeks or so as well. Beating Army, beating Navy, 10 passing touchdowns to just 2 interceptions in those 5 wins. Can Indiana shock everybody? And in the first college football playoff game on a campus site, John, also be the first upset and be a major one in this step up in weight class after the showing they did not give us against Ohio State last month.
Yeah, I heard Kurt Signetti talking about the edge he's got with Rourke. He's Canadian. He said, my quarterback is Canadian. He's not going to be intimidated by the cold.
He's literally got ice water in his veins. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he's from the 51st state of our great nation.
There you go. I see what you did there.
Oh, man.
Man, political. All right.
We talked about that last week. I've got a Notre Dame future at 10-1. So I'll obviously be rooting for Notre Dame in this one. But here's what I do think happens. I think it kind of looks like the Ohio State game in that Indiana strikes first. I do think they will take a lead in this game. I think Signetti is certainly a good enough coach to scheme something up, and I think they come out and they are able to find success early. But I also think over the course of the game that Notre Dame just leans on them. I don't have a problem if you want to lay 7.5. I mean, I think that's fine. But I think the way I intend to play it is I intend to hit this game live, after Indiana does score first, because I do think that's what happens. Obviously, I'll look like an idiot if Indiana goes 3 and out or Notre Dame gets the ball first and scores. But either way, I do think Notre Dame leans on them ultimately in this game and that run game. And just look, here's the thing about Marcus Freeman. He's a damn good coach. If he didn't have, a brain fart against Ryan Day at Ohio State with, the amount of defenders on the field, obviously he beats Ohio State last year, and we're probably talking about the guy in a completely different context. I think he's done a really good job at Notre Dame over his, first 3 years, and every single year they've gotten better, right? Weird losses happen occasionally. Other than that hiccup, I mean, Notre Dame's been pretty dominant. So I think they roll in this one ultimately, and I think they're very much live to win the whole thing.
My concern with going against Indiana, because I did initially, and I did take the 7.5. I laid the 7.5. I took Notre Dame. My concern, though, as I get closer to this, is that I'm looking at Indiana kind of like I used to look at Boise when they had Chris Peterson, where if you gave Peterson like 3 weeks to prepare, like you were kind of screwed. Like you didn't want to play Boise week 1, and you didn't want to play them in a bowl game because they were going to come in prepared. But any other week you could get to them, and that's kind of my hesitance here. I still like Notre Dame. I still think they're the better team. I still think what John said, they're going to lean on them. They're going to eventually just kind of overpower them. But Notre Dame has been a program for a while, and when you're a program, you got more seniors, you got better athletes, everything like that. So I think in the end, Notre Dame does win. I would be cool laying the 7.5.
See, I don't think it's unrealistic to expect Notre Dame to maybe pull away on this thing because of what you guys both said about them leaning on Indiana throughout this thing and covering the 7.5. But I do think there's an opportunity here for Indiana, maybe not to win outright, although that's still a slim possibility as well, but to cover the 7.5, definitely. You give me the hook. That extra half point is why I like Indiana with the points in this one. They've got an explosive offense. You got a Notre Dame secondary that's a little shorthanded. And as much as we talk about who the hell has Indiana beaten, you say the same exact thing about Notre Dame. I get it. They beat the service academies. But, I mean, I look at Notre Dame and say, okay, you lost to NIU at home. That right there opens the door to the fact that when you're at home, you're a big favorite. The possibility exists. Again, maybe you don't lose, but that this thing gets real. Things pucker up late, and you've got to. Riley Leonard has got to pull off what Riley Leonard has been shown to. He's been showing himself capable of doing over the last 5 to 6 weeks, which is actually throwing the ball. I don't think this is necessarily the same Notre Dame offense that we got early in the season.
I respect that totally, by the way. Like, I could see a world where Notre Dame really just hasn't been forced to throw that much. And if Indiana in any way can do that, again, not sure that they can, but if they do, yeah, man, I think all bets would be off in this one for sure. If you just make them uncomfortable, which easier said than done, could be very live.
Well, we're going to get into the other 3 games in just a minute here, but since we just got done talking about Indiana and what opportunity they may or may not have in South Bend this weekend, which of these 4 underdogs, without giving away too much from the 3 games that we're going to preview in a couple minutes, which of these 4 underdogs do you like the most, John?
I'd say Tennessee for sure.
Why you got to just tee up Choppy like that?
It's just the truth.
I know.
I mean, I'll be honest. If you lay 7.5 with Ryan Day, I'm going to use the words of the great GRP. You've lost your mojo and you need a break.
That's right. That's right.
And that's just. I'm not. Obviously, he could cover it, but there's just no chance I'm putting my hard-earned American Bitcoin on that.
So we're all on. I think we're all on Tennessee as the underdog we like the most. I think most of the country is. So okay, then I'll kick the can down the road. Who's the next most attractive underdog, Choppy?
I think I would say Indiana.
Yeah.
I don't know that SMU is ready for this. And Clemson, Texas is weird to me. Texas is weird. Texas come out there and play an amazing football game, and then they could also be in. Quinn is in a very similar situation to Ryan Day, where the fans are just waiting for 1 3 and out to boo the hell out of him and to get Arch in there, and they are waiting for it. I have a lot of Texas fans that are friends of mine. Not a single one of them thinks Quinn should be starting this game. So not a single one. So yep. I think that they are right too.
Wow. Yeah, I think I can't quite get fully behind the Clemson idea, but I tend to agree that Indiana is probably the second most attractive underdog. And also, and we'll get into the SMU Penn State game here in just a minute. I also think, like you said, SMU, I love Rhett Lashley. Seems like a great dude, a coach who's really doing something great down there in Dallas. I can't see them walking into Happy Valley with wind chills, maybe in the single digits, and somehow walking out of there with a win. I just can't. It doesn't compute for me. We'll get into the other 3 games, the 3 Saturday games. We'll also talk again, like I said, about maybe some portal news before we wrap up. BetMGM has some interesting conference specials and props posted for this weekend as well. Maybe if we got a second, we'll touch on some other bowl games and hoops as well. All on the way here as we get you set for the first ever 12-team college football playoff alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. I'm Chris Mack. This is BetQLU, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.
Are you ready, sir? Start your engines. Let's go.
Astros money line versus the Marlins. Johnny Cueto, no thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How does this affect me personally?
Which is absolutely bonkers to me.
If you do the middle school math, is 117 yards per game that you gotta post each and every weekend.
I knew it.
Who has the upper hand? Do we think it's going to be the offenses, or do we think it's going to be the defenses?
How about Saturday's game? Let's just throw a random game out here.
Like, I don't want to put faith in NC State. There's a chance we'll lose outright. Who knows? Jinx is definitely not paying attention right now. He's just vibing to the music.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Go for the betting cycle on BetQL with Cody Decker,
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
sports handicapper Rob Brown,
When Penix Jr. plays USC, he's getting 400 yards.
cycling all the top plays,
And Cody Decker, I think Florida can cover today.
and one outrageous show parlay.
1, 2, 3.
Let the chaos begin. It's Bet for the Cycle on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Some would say that maybe he'll be chasing Super Bowl MVP. Really makes me angry that, like, Knicks fans can't have anything. We've been bad for I get it. Now it's, okay, 100% of attention on 9 million games tonight. It's a playoff game. We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends, and it ends with absolute disaster. But I'll tell you, that's fun. But the most fun thing about betting on sports for me is this. Like, hey, there's no tomorrow. And now, come on, put Pickett in.
Are you ready, sir? Start your engines. Let's go.
Astros money line versus the Marlins. Johnny Cueto, no thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How does this affect me personally?
Which is absolutely bonkers to me.
If you do the middle school math, is 117 yards per game that you gotta post each and every weekend.
I knew it.
Who has the upper hand? Do we think it's going to be the offenses, or do we think it's going to be the defenses?
How about Saturday's game? Let's just throw a random game out here.
Like, I don't want to put faith in NC State. There's a chance we'll lose
team.
outright. Who knows? Jinx is definitely not paying attention right now. He's just vibing to the music.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
Live coast to coast on the BetQL Network, getting you ready for the first weekend of the 12-team CFP. Saturday going to be absolutely massive with all the ball being played between the NFL and the college football playoff. We talked about Friday night's game earlier for those of you joining us Friday night on the BetQL Network. Don't forget, you can always get us in podcast form before any of the games are played by searching BetQLU wherever you get your podcast. So let's dive into Saturday now, and we'll just go chronologically, boys. We'll start Saturday, noon Eastern. This game on TNT and Max. Number 11 SMU lost by this much in the ACC championship game to Clemson in their first year in the conference. They head to Happy Valley, 9-point dogs, 8.5, 9-point dogs to the Nittany Lions, 107,000 in a whiteout at Beaver Stadium, and it's going to feel like a whiteout, even if there aren't any flakes in the air. 26 degrees, 11-degree real feel at kickoff. Kevin Jennings, slow start against Clemson. He can't do that again if SMU wants to stay in this thing, although we saw the big comeback in the second half in Charlotte. Drew Aller has been on point most of this season, especially when Andy Kotelnicki has him utilizing Tyler Warren. This is going to be a difficult opportunity, uphill climb for SMU against this defensive front. Can they, John, generate enough offense to keep pace with Penn State, who I don't think is going to light up the scoreboard necessarily, but has shown the ability, especially against inferior secondaries, to create just enough big play capability, even without any great wide receivers. I look at this, I see a lot of similarities in this one, I guess, between, for example, their trip out to LA to play USC.
Yeah, I mean, I think my rule of thumb is I'm going to do my best to avoid teams from the ACC, betting teams from the ACC in this format. Simply just because I don't really think, like, Miami was one of the two best teams from the ACC, right? I mean, we all kind of agree with that, and yet they could have easily been a 7-5 football team. So you you look at the ACC down the line, it's like, were any of these teams actually good? Were any of these teams, quality and the caliber of a playoff team? The answer to me is probably not, SMU included. I just have really very limited interest in betting a team like this. This to me feels exactly like, not that different from the Notre Dame game, in that, you have a stylistic difference, but also a talent difference here. I mean, SMU probably wasn't supposed to be in this spot. Penn State's getting this game at home. The physicality difference is going to be, I think, pretty obvious to everybody. And I think Penn State's style wins out. I think James Franklin can, quite frankly, run this one up. And so I'm actually on Penn State, and I think that's what happens.
The biggest advantage, if you were to rank like the advantages that each team had, the biggest advantage in the entire game is Rhett Lashley over small game James. Like, that's it. That's the biggest advantage. And then every other advantage pretty much goes to Penn State. Like, that's the, SMU is, it's a great story. And I've said for years, they're a sleeping giant in this sport. They really are. They don't have to get on an airplane to recruit. Great campus, tons of cash. They are perfect for the NIL. They are a perfect NIL team. But they've never played in a stadium like this. They haven't. None of these kids. I mean, now some of them have, because some of these kids were transfers from like Alabama and such. But for the most part, like, this is going to be, a frontier. And I don't see. I really want to bet them. I really do. Nothing supports the bet. And that's the problem. Nothing out there supports it.
Yeah, Penn State. Well, I'll say this. Penn State under 500 against the spread this season. 0-3 against the spread against ranked opponents this season. I understand the line of thinking that is Penn State taking control of this game late and running away with it, especially given the atmosphere, the environment, all of it. But even as a Penn State fan and an alum, I could see this being either uncomfortably close late or a backdoor cover for SMU. And neither of those would surprise me. I'm not going to bet a side in this one. I probably won't touch this one because the last thing I need is more anxiety around this game. But I definitely think, given the against the spread results for Penn State this year and for SMU, 8-5 against the spread this year. If I were trying to look at this as a neutral party, I would be very heavily considering taking the 8.5 points and looking at SMU. I think Penn State wins, but I think there's definitely a significant percentage of outcomes where SMU ends up covering that number and making things uncomfortable. Biggest spread of the weekend is in Austin. The second of the 3 games on Saturday, 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Number 12, Clemson, the team to beat SMU in the aforementioned ACC championship game in Charlotte. They have not been a road underdog this season. They will be a big one in Texas. Can Clemson compete, John? Or does this set up for an opportunity for the Longhorns to remind everyone of what we thought of them back in late August, early September?
Yeah, I mean, Dabo Swinney getting 12 points in a meaningful playoff game. Can they compete? I mean, they absolutely can. I mean, this Texas team has been kind of dragging its ass for the last month and a half of this season. And like RJ said, I think they're starting the wrong quarterback, and they're pot committed to the guy at this point in the season. But he's been bad, man. I think about the red zone turnovers against Texas A&M. I think about the bad picks against Georgia in the SEC championship game. I really am not in a situation where I want to lay 12 with Texas. I don't necessarily want to play 12 with Clemson either. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the under in this game. I think it's definitely my only and my favorite total bet of the year, or of the playoff, I should say, just because all the issues I mentioned with Texas, like I just don't believe that Quinn Ewers is the right man, and they just haven't looked that explosive, honestly, all year. And then Clemson, look, we've seen kind of what that looks like when they play SEC teams. The offense really tends to struggle. So rather than kind of fool with the number here, a weird number of 12, and this game land 11 or 13, I'm just going to take the under because I don't think this is a high-scoring game at all. I think this is a muck-it-up, really muddy game that finishes something like 24 to 17 or something along those lines. I like the under a lot in this one, so I'll fire it at the under 51.5.
I early bet this game. I early bet this. I took Texas at like 10.5 or 11,
nice.
And now I kind of regret it. Now the under is absolutely the play. The under is absolutely the play. I don't know that Clemson covers or even wins. I just think the problem is I don't think there's going to be enough points to get to 11 where you can cover a double-digit spread. That's the issue. And if all Klubnik has to do is play solid, and I think that they're going to cover this spread. But the problem is that Texas is you can make the argument that Texas is the most talented team in the nation. You can easily make that argument, and you can make the argument that they should win this game going away. But we've seen them play mid, and I don't know what they're going to do with if Quinn finishes this game. I'll be slightly surprised. I do think there's a real opportunity that Arch gets a lot of second half playing time in this game, depending on how this thing goes, because these fans are going to be all over. I'm just warning you guys. These fans are going to be all over Quinn the entire game. They do not think he should be starting right now, and that is not a fringe voice of the Texas fan. It is a large part of the Longhorn fan. They absolutely should win. They're the better football team, but I don't know that they're starting the right quarterback.
See, I am not a huge Quinn Ewers fan. I'm on board with that sentiment, But I think with the extra week to 2 weeks off to maybe get a little healthier, I still think we're going to see plenty of Arch Manning in this game. I think it's finally, Texas has not faced an opportunity to really emotionally get up for a football game. Not even the SEC championship, to be totally honest. They knew they were going to the playoff, even if they lost that game. Since even Texas A&M, and they were sloppy in that game, I think a lot of that had to do with Ewers being limited. Since the Red River game against Oklahoma, they blew Oklahoma out. Not a good Oklahoma team this year, but I think there's an opportunity for Texas to round back into form this week. If not Quinn Ewers specifically, I think Texas's defense. I know Klubnik and Maffa have done a lot down the stretch, especially in the ACC title game, to make this look like it's closer than the 11.5, 12 that it's out to now. I don't think it is. I think Texas's defense puts it on Clemson, and I think the Horns end up pulling away late. I think they cover the 12. I don't know if I would bet the 12 because that is such a big number for a playoff game. I do really like that look at the under, John. Like I think that might be Texas could pull away late and bury the number and still only win this thing, 31-17, and I still cover the under by more than a field goal. So I really like the look at the under. I think that may be the play for me in this one. And then Saturday night, we get ready. You talk about the environment in Austin for Quinn Ewers, Choppy, and Horns fans being ready to run him out of the building in Austin on Saturday afternoon. It is going to be pins and needles in the shoe. I would not be surprised if they hand out the torches and the pitchforks to Buckeye fans as they walk into the stadium just in case Ryan Day poops the bed again, because everybody is expecting that. It is a 7.5-point spread with the Vols headed to Columbus. And I get it. I said it last week. I don't like betting freshman quarterbacks, but you're giving Tennessee in this defense 7.5 against Will Howard. I like Nico. I like the Vols. I'm tempted to go in on the money line, John, at plus 240.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to bet a dog on the money line this week, it'd be that one for sure. I mean, granted, I think they are appropriate underdogs. I don't think like the market is missing anything here. I mean, Choppy, that Tennessee's offense has kind of been MIA at several points throughout this season. But again, you're getting an Ohio State team that's in a very weird frame of mind. You're getting a coaching staff that may or may not be on the outs. Like I've seen people asking, do the players, want to win this game and I'm just like, I mean, that's a ridiculous question, but yeah, of course they want to win. But look, I mean, I think, from a psychological standpoint, it's weird. It's very weird for the favorite in this game. So yeah, I think, look, my guess is Tennessee's going to be just a popular, underdog on the weekend generally, but that's fine. Popular underdogs do cover. Popular underdogs do occasionally win. And, this is an SEC team. They've got SEC talent. I don't think they're going to be embarrassed by any stretch of the imagination. So 7.5 feels fine to me.
The line hasn't moved. The line has not moved at all. Vegas thinks they have it nailed. They have not touched it. Doesn't matter what where the money is coming in. Vegas thinks they've got this thing absolutely nailed, and that's why they haven't moved it. I think the number is all these numbers were big, to be honest with you, but you mentioned the pitchforks are going to be out for Ryan Day. That's assuming that there's enough Ohio State fans in the building. There's going to be 35,000 Tennessee fans in this stupid game. I don't know how they're going to. The amount of tickets that are available, that the pre-sale that went on where the code got leaked. I've never seen anything like it. The amount of fans that are going to be there. So it's going to be the most unique. And I don't like the way it's happening because they're going to do like all these stadiums, all these road teams are getting their own hype video before they come out. Like this, make this a road game. Make this a true road game. Don't let the other team get a hype video. I can't separate, how I want this game to go versus not. I think that, I could look at the under because I don't think that there's going to be a ton of scoring in this game. Tennessee's defense is really, really good. I don't think the cold plays here because the way Tennessee runs the ball, and it gets cold in Knoxville. It's not like it's always 80 degrees. I think the under might play. I could see like a 20-17 type game, 17-14.
Yeah, I could definitely see the under being in play as well. You look at it right now, about 2/3 of the money. You mentioned Vegas hasn't moved the line, Choppy. About 2/3 of the money, as well as 2/3 of the tickets on Tennessee, only a third on Ohio State. And without the line moving at all, based on that, that tells you, like you said, Vegas has this. The books have this dialed in, I think, and that's the only thing that gives me pause here. Is like, they're totally happy taking 2/3 of the money on Tennessee at 7.5. So is that just is this a similar opportunity to what I just outlined with Texas a couple minutes ago? An opportunity for a team to get right now that they finally have the motivation in front of them. Ohio State, they knew they were getting to the playoff the entire second half of the season. You can blame them for the loss to Michigan, absolutely, but maybe there's not the same juice in that rivalry that some of us still think there could be, because they knew they were going to the playoff. Even if they lost, they knew, Big Ten championship game is out the window, so what? We're still going to the playoff. Maybe this is that opportunity for Ohio State to step back on the gas. I think I'll be betting Tennessee anyway. Some interesting specials up at BetMGM, both for the conferences and a couple other opportunities. We'll look at the other bowl games, maybe even some hoops, the portal as well. A lot to get to before our best bets coming up next here on BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.
Are you ready, sir? Start your engines. Let's go.
Astros money line versus the Marlins. Johnny Cueto, no thank you. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How does this affect me personally?
Which is absolutely bonkers to me.
If you do the middle school math, is 117 yards per game that you gotta post each and every weekend.
I knew it.
Who has the upper hand? Do we think it's going to be the offenses, or do we think it's going to be the defenses?
How about Saturday's game? Let's just throw a random game out here.
Like, I don't want to put faith in NC State. There's a chance we'll lose outright. Who knows? Jinx is definitely not paying attention right now. He's just vibing to the music.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Go for the betting cycle on BetQL with Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
Sports handicapper Rob Brown.
When Penix Jr. plays USC, he's getting 400 yards.
Cycling all the top plays.
And Cody Decker, I think Florida can cover today.
And one outrageous show parlay.
1, 2, 3.
Let the chaos begin. It's Bet for the Cycle on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Some would say that maybe he'll be chasing Super Bowl MVP. Really makes me angry that, like, Knicks fans can't have anything. We've been bad for... I get it. Now it's, okay, 100% of attention on 9 million games tonight. It's a playoff game! We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. And it ends with absolute disaster. But I'll tell you, that's fun. But the most fun thing about betting on sports for me is this. Like, hey, there's no tomorrow. And now, come on, put Pickett in.
Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
Live coast to coast on the BetQL network. We have been getting you ready for the first full weekend of the college football playoff. We'll get you our best bets in just a couple of minutes alongside John Martin and RJ Choppy. I'm Chris Mack. It is BetQLU, presented by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. Some interesting special props up at BetMGM. And John, you alluded to not wanting to bet ACC teams in the playoff at all. And so I thought this was an interesting number that's up at BetMGM right now. You can bet ACC total wins in the playoff. Over 1.5 is plus 150. Under 1.5, minus 185. Probably not a number you like there, but just, we've got Big Ten total wins posted at over 4.5 and juiced to an even money under 4.5. SEC wins at 3.5. Which of these conferences, do you like any of these special bets? And just which of these conferences do you think are we staring at when we get down to the Final Four in a couple of weeks?
No, I do like the price on the under 1.5. You said 1.5 ACC wins?
Yep.
I mean, who's winning 2? I mean, who out of those teams is winning 2 games? I mean, yeah. I think 180 is extremely short, actually. So that is a bet that I would 100% be interested in, perhaps for a relatively large amount as well.
The problem you're going to run into is if either of the ACC teams win their first game, the number's going to go to the over because they're going to wind up playing Boise or Arizona State, and then those ACC teams will be favored. That's the hang up, right? That's the risk that you're going to run. I mean, weird things happen.
Yeah.
Right? All it needs, you need a fumble here or there by Penn State. You need a foot of snow to be on the ground, and the game everybody is kept in sight. That's the risk with that ACC under. I think the under is the smarter bet, but I think it's pretty risky. I mean, all you need is one win.
Yeah, you could see Clemson, given how we talked about them earlier, an upset in Austin, and then they get Arizona State on a neutral field. There's an outside shot. I'm not betting it, but I think that's probably the one that's most interesting. The other special prop that's posted at BetMGM for the first weekend of the college football playoff, you can bet either an at-large or a conference champion to win the national championship. Your at-larges, heavy favorites, minus 185. Conference champs, plus 150. I mean, if you believe in Oregon or Georgia, as I think – now, Georgia's a totally different question with Beck injured, but I definitely still believe in Oregon. I mean, they were my pick at the beginning of the year. They've been my pick throughout the year. I think outside of the second half against Penn State in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago, they still look like that team. You're telling me I can bet conference champ to win a national championship at plus 150 and still have the opportunity to also have maybe Georgia get lumped in with Oregon there. I like that number. Maybe I should just bet Oregon outright at that point, John.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Georgia's not really working for you anymore, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't. I mean, the problem is that once once that adrenaline, ran out on that first drive of the second half for the Georgia backup quarterback Stockton. Yeah, he didn't do anything the rest of the night. Like, he threw one of the most egregious interceptions I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And now okay, we got a little tape, right? We kind of know what he does now. These teams are watching. He's clearly a running guy, a mobile guy. They're going to make him throw, and I don't think that's going to be very good for him or Georgia. So that's the problem. You should just bet Oregon if you like Oregon, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue with Oregon is, I mean, not only were they given no favors with their first round matchup, when they get the bye, they have to face either Ohio State or Tennessee. But if they get by that game, the likelihood is that they play Texas at the Cotton Bowl, which is going to be a road game. Like, that's, they completely screwed. Oregon got completely screwed here in this entire setup. From their first round matchup to then their second game, which is going to be a road game against Texas if it holds. That's just not how it should be. That's just not how it should be. And then if they wind up getting through that, they got to play a road game potentially at Georgia if Georgia makes it all the way through. Like in Atlanta, like what are we doing here? Like that's the problem with betting Oregon is it's very, very difficult. Their road is just too dang hard for a number one.
Yeah, and the team that everybody thinks got a much smoother road despite a loss to Oregon in the Big Ten championship got affected by some portal news this week, which we could talk about briefly. Penn State backup Bo Pribula, who is more than just their backup, gets used as an option, a read option quarterback for them in certain situations as well, has packages built within Andy Kotelnicki's offense. Hit the portal this week being honest, saying, hey, Drew Aller's coming back for another year. I got to find an opportunity where I can play every day. It's just stupid that this is the time when I have to declare this. And it's a good point that Pribula made, that James Franklin made. I heard Rhett Lashley make the same point in his press conference this week as well. They've got to do something about the portal and when the windows are open to hit the portal during the playoff. It just doesn't make sense, John. I mean, look, it's fun to have stuff to talk about right now without games being played over the last 2 weeks. Caden Salter goes to Colorado to replace Shador. John Mateer's going to Oklahoma. Okay, that's great for those teams, but you've got these 12 teams who are getting ready for the playoff, and one in particular has a backup quarterback who's pretty important to them, who's now got to declare for the portal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hasn't there been a couple of instances of guys, who are playing in different bowl games that are transferring but staying with the team through the bowl game? I think we have seen instances of that. So I don't know. I mean, did Pribula not have that option? I mean,
yeah, I think it's a rare exception when we see that. I think in this instance, he wants to hit the portal and hit the portal because what happens is, like I said, Salter goes from Liberty to Colorado. Mateer goes from Washington State to Oklahoma. And it's like, okay, those might have been two pretty good landing spots for me if I'm Bo Pribula. I can't go commit somewhere else while I'm playing a game for another team.
Yeah. I think they got to move the portal, man. They got to move it and they got to move signing day. You don't need coaches preparing for a playoff having to worry about signing day in the middle of that. Move signing day back to February, and then move the portal after to protect the high school kids, because you're seeing this, and this is not just a football thing. You see this in the other sports. Good luck as a high school baseball player right now trying to get on with one of these teams. You're a big program. You're getting maybe 1 or 2 a year because now they're shrinking the rosters. It's all transfer portal. You've got to protect the high school kids. You got to move the portal to March. Move the portal to March. Get your high schools in February, and then ditch the December signing day.
Yeah, it's out of control the way it's currently built. 11 bowl games are going to happen, non-college football playoff bowl games, before we reconvene, gentlemen, between the Myrtle Beach Bowl and the Idaho Potato Bowl on the day before Christmas Eve, all the way out through, let's see, there's a handful of games being played Friday, December 27th. Any of these non-CFP bowls have numbers posted that you are the least bit interested in, John?
Absolutely. What are you talking about, man?
All right, give me something then.
These are the big games for me. You guys, you just are dazzled by the bright lights and the big names of the NFL quarterbacks. I mean, that's how RJ's always been.
I mean, I don't have the Liberty Bowl being played in my backyard, John. I'm sorry. I don't.
That's right. And that game is an absolute disaster. All the quarterbacks have opted out. Everybody that's decent is gone. I mean, I don't know how they're suiting up. But one game I really like quite a bit is, and I don't know what bowl it is. You'll have to forgive me. But San Jose State against Navy. I think it's the
Hawaii
in Hawaii.
No. Yeah. San Jose State against
South Florida.
South Florida.
South Florida.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Christmas Eve.
That's where the San Jose State coach used to be, Navy. That's why I got it confused. But anyway, yes. San Jose State against South Florida. I love San Jose State in this game, -3.5. San Jose State's coaching staff kind of going home. South Florida, if you'd have told me they were a bowl team, like I looked up and I saw they were in a bowl. I said, oh my God, how did they make it? Was there like an APR issue for some other team? They've been on a backup quarterback all year long. They've gotten absolutely blasted by every decent team they've played. I don't know what motivation, if any, they're going to have in this game. San Jose State will have all of it, and I still think it's short, even at 3.5. I think they're going to be up for this one. So give me San Jose State against South Florida.
I love it. Any other? Fire me one more quick best bet. Give me something real quick. Come on. Something from the playoff, John. And I know you got to run.
Give me Penn State minus 8.5.
I love it. Choppy, what do you got for
Happy Valley?
Yeah, we are. Choppy, what do you got? Best bet.
If I was going to do a bowl game, the bowl games I think this is probably the last year. We're in the last couple of years that we're actually going to have these bowl games and aren't the college playoff. I was going to be on Florida at some point. I think minus 12 against Tulane, but I'm just out on a lot of these because you don't know what the opt-outs. I mean, I could see BYU. I assume nobody's going to play for Colorado, so I would assume BYU. I would take the +3 on that one, but let me go with the under in the Texas Clemson game. That will be my best bet for the weekend.
Under in Texas Clemson, which is the 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central game on Saturday, the second of the triple header on Saturday for the college football playoff. 51.5 is the number it's posted at now. Yeah, that's one that I really like, but I'll tell you what I'm going to go with. My best bet of the week. Look, this is not just as a Penn State guy. I said this last week. I'm going to stick with it. No, it's not the Penn State SMU game. It is Tennessee money line against Ohio State.
Oh, baby.
Tennessee money line, Choppy. I'm doing it for you, bud. Tennessee money line at +240 against Ohio State. I think they get the upset. I think they sneak out of Columbus, out of the horseshoe before the torches and pitchforks and the crowd comes, after Ryan Day. I think Tennessee steals it and moves on to the next round of the college football playoff to face Oregon. I think this is where the rubber hits the road for Ryan Day and Ohio State and Will Howard. And they don't get over the hangover of the loss to Michigan and not getting in to that Big Ten championship game. We'll have 4 more college football playoff games to break down next weekend as we'll move on to the quarterfinal round and invite the conference champions in at that point. You can always get us in podcast form inside your Odyssey app, AUDACY. It's free. Download it today. Or get us wherever you get your podcast by searching for BetQLU, always on the Odyssey Sports YouTube channel as well, and live coast to coast every Friday night and Saturday morning right here on the BetQL network. This has been BetQLU, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.
Are you ready, sir? Start your engines. Let's go.
Astros money line versus the Marlins. Johnny Cueto, no thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How does this affect me personally?
Which is absolutely bonkers to me.
If you do the middle school math, is 117 yards per game that you gotta post each and every weekend.
I knew it.
Who has the upper hand? Do we think it's going to be the offenses, or do we think it's going to be the defenses?
How about Saturday's game? Let's just throw a random game out here.
I don't want to put faith in NC State. There's a chance we'll lose outright. Who knows? Jinx is definitely not paying attention right now. He's just vibing to the music.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Go for the betting cycle on BetQL with Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
Sports handicapper Rob Brown.
When Penix Jr. plays USC, he's getting 400 yards.
Cycling all the top plays.
And Cody Decker, I think Florida can cover today.
And one outrageous show parlay.
1, 2,
Let the chaos begin. It's Bet for the Cycle on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Some would say that maybe he'll be chasing Super Bowl MVP. Really makes me angry that, like, Knicks fans can't have anything. We've been bad for... I get it. Now it's, okay, 100% of attention on 9 million games tonight. It's a playoff game! We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. And it ends with absolute disaster. But I'll tell you, that's fun. But the most fun thing about betting on sports for me is this. Like, hey, there's no tomorrow. And now, come on, pick it in.
Are you ready, sir? Start your engines. Let's go.
Astros money line versus the Marlins. Johnny Cueto, no thank you. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How does this affect me personally?
Which is absolutely bonkers to me.
If you do the middle school math, is 117 yards per game that you gotta post each and every weekend.
I knew it.
Who has the upper hand? Do we think it's going to be the offenses, or do we think it's going to be the defenses?
How about Saturday's game? Let's just throw a random game out here.
Like, I don't want to put faith in NC State. There's a chance we'll lose outright. Who knows? Jinx is definitely not paying attention right now. He's just vibing to the music.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Some would say that maybe he'll be chasing Super Bowl MVP. Really makes me angry that, like, Knicks fans can't have anything. We've been bad for... I get it. Now it's, okay, 100% of attention on 9 million games tonight. It's a playoff game! We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. And it ends with absolute disaster. But I'll tell you, that's fun. But the most fun thing about betting on sports for me is this. Like, hey, there's no tomorrow. And now, come on, pick it in.
Are you ready, sir? Start your engines. Let's go.
Astros money line versus the Marlins. Johnny Cueto, no thank you. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How does this affect me personally?
Which is absolutely bonkers to me.
If you do the middle school math, is 117 yards per game that you gotta post each and every weekend.
I knew it.
Who has the upper hand? Do we think it's going to be the offenses, or do we think it's going to be the defenses?
How about Saturday's game? Let's just throw a random game out here.
Like, I don't want to put faith in NC State. There's a chance we'll lose outright. Who knows? Jinx is definitely not paying attention right now. He's just vibing to the music.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Go for the betting cycle on BetQL with Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
Sports handicapper Rob Brown.
When Penix Jr. plays USC, he's getting 400 yards.
Cycling all the top plays.
And Cody Decker, I think Florida can cover today.
And one outrageous show parlay.
1, 2, 3.
Let the chaos begin. It's Bet for the Cycle on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.